Hello, and welcome to Andrew Broussard Watercolors. Today we're going to do a fast and loose watercolor landscape painting, but it's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to look at a painting by Anthony Vandyke Copley Fielding. Apparently he's just commonly referred to as Copley Fielding, and he was late 1700s, early 1800s British painter. I'll talk more about that in a moment. I have a quarter sheet of Stonehenge Aqua. I just saturated it with water. It's 100% cotton, 140-pound cold press. And yep, let's get to it. So my goal for this one is not to copy the painting, which I'm going to probably wind up copying the composition, but to try to get that vastness of it. And I'm just amazed by what this guy was able to achieve with watercolor. And I figure by looking at historical works and studying them, especially from that time period, I can work on getting that grandiose feel that I'm kind of trying to explore again. So I'm going to start out with a little bit of raw sienna. I'm not going to switch up the palette or anything. I'm just going to kind of make it my own and have fun with it. Like I said, just trying to get that big, grandiose feel. I was looking through paintings on YouTube. By the way, I'm going to have an image of my results and an image of his painting on the side so you can see throughout. Anyway, I was looking through images on Google, looking for one that I had found in a book, and just everyone that I kept on seeing, I was just like, oh, I want to do this one, I want to do this one. And he just has such a huge catalog of amazing works. So, horizon line, right in here. It's so brilliantly white. I guess he would be considered a luminist, or the British counterpart of the Hudson River Valley movement. I'm just playing with ideas of how to build up these clouds in a fast and loose style. Most likely going to rely on the paper towel. There's some blue in there, so I'll grab some ultramarine blue. But it looks so light that I wonder how thin the wash would have to be. With mixing ultramarine with raw sienna, you're going to get that gray, which is fine. I would play around with lemon yellow in there, but I feel like that would just start turning too green. So I wonder if gouache was used by this gentleman. I'll have to kind of just research and look him up, but I really just wanted to get to painting. It's Saturday night, Saturday evening, and relaxed, had some tea, did some longboarding, some kind of like little speed trial experiments for a mile or two, and then just changed up some components just so I could play around and see what's working for me, and then just relax some more. But really just wanted to get painting in. This is going to be the distant mountains, which comes up to about here. Just really trying to focus on the perspective and the size of things. I think what stood out, well, there's so many things that stood out with this one, but that lone tree had that very, for the life of me, I cannot think of his name. Whenever I think of it, I'll let you know. But that lone tree standing there stood out, and there's kind of compositions that have that, and I wind up always making my trees too big, and they start pushing too much into the foreground. So I think that tree is a trick to the size of everything. And there's teeny tiny sheep down in this area, which I can only think you can do with gouache, or maybe using a razor blade to pick up those spots. Got a little bit of sap green on there. Just like a piece of sap green. It's just trailing everywhere. Alright. We have this mass here. Using the paper towel, pull out water. What I'll do is grab a little bit more blue, ultramarine, some light red oxide. So this is kind of my distant purple formula. Put those mountains in. There. You're going to get stronger in value. So I will say, of course, you're welcome to follow along, but as you can see, this is experimental for me, and I'm just filming my learning process. Kind of has that feel of the Chinese brush painting going into that mist. And then I want to lift with the paper towel, that's my goal, to get those harsher edges that he has in those mountains. This was the last paper towel on the roll. These are the shop rags, the blue shop rags, and they're fantastic for oil painting and watercolor. I don't know if I have any more rolls left. I have to go to Walmart tomorrow. There we go. All right, I'll go back to the background in a moment. I'm going to move to the foreground a little bit. Some of the art books that have, just the master painters. This is burnt sienna. Sometimes they have incomplete paintings, which I guess gives you an idea of that artist's approach. I don't think they had any incomplete of this gentleman's. Let's grab some burnt umber. Now, the thing is, Mr. Vandyke, Anthony Vandyke, or I guess maybe I'll just refer to him as Mr. Copley. He has just so much detail in it, and it's just that time period that, and that style that had so much detail. And I'm looking for the fast and loose approach, the almost tonalist approach that would follow from it. You had JMW Turner painting at that same time, and then after all these gentlemen, it was ultramarine. It was impressionism and stuff. You know, I'm on Facebook pages for painting, like you know, the Ron Ranson disciples, and stuff for the different types of tea that I like. So I've gotten really deep into tea, and some stuff for longboarding. Raw sienna and ultramarine, just mixing kind of a gray. Map out this tree. It might be a little too soon, but we'll see. My thing is, and you know, I look at the Reddit and Discord, and I'm wondering if there's anything out there for kind of just more painting discussions. Here's that a little bit. Come in here. Since I'm working wet and wet, and just in general, I like to kind of really work around a whole piece with anything, mainly because it just helps keep everything in perspective and in relation to each other. Just switching real quick to a quill brush to grab a little bit of ultramarine blue for the water. Just because the washes are so light, and I barely wash my hake brush throughout a painting, I feel like I just need to switch over there. I could probably even grab a little bit of ultramarine, and maybe we still have some wet up here that I can go in with. Because I had pulled with the paper towel, let me know what you think of this part, if you would have done that or not. And I can use this to shape in the background hills. Raw sienna. I'm sure yellow ochre would give it that kind of pop that it has in the scene. Or just lighter washes and preparing. I have no clue how long a video like this is going to last, like how long it's going to take, but I hope y'all are enjoying it. If you made it this far, leave a comment below. I feel like I'm going too dark tonally. Joe Menza had sent me and Matthew Clemens a video, it was a few months ago, of a gentleman painting on location in Italy, a scene, and talking about JMW Turner. And I don't know the gentleman's name, but I think he's a famous painter and he has videos out there. But I just don't, where was I going with that? Let's get that edge a little bit. Yeah, okay, the surface that they were painting on, where I think he was talking about the sizing and how sized and how different the paper was then compared to now. And I think he had essentially varnished the paper. I don't know if Joe ever went through with experiments with that, because we were talking about that. We were talking about different sizing. The cats are knocking stuff over. Trying to grab pure water to get that soft effect. I did lift a lot in these spots with the paper towel, so not too much I have to worry about. These little quill brushes are pretty nice. As I say that, I switch brushes. I'm going to map out this tree here. So there's two trees, one that comes up, and then we have this other big old tree with a lot of growth around it. So as you can see, we're wet in these spots, so it's going to diffuse some. But I think there's going to be a lot of passing over them anyway, just to build them up. Now I have read, and this is anecdotal. Let me grab a different color when I do this. I'm going to grab some lemon yellow and the ultramarine and just start getting it kind of a green going. And I'm going to use the burnt sienna to temper it. Okay, so I have read that people experimenting with layering watercolor compared to just going in heavy with the watercolor, with their experiments, they did not experience much of a difference. So me putting these guys in right now versus me layering over them from other people's experiences shouldn't really be too different than just going in heavy at the end. But I think that the wet and wet mapping out just helps me build the scene and get everything to make sense relation-wise. Like, how on earth do you put in the little sheep? There's the old paintings from the 1800s and then the early 1900s that have all the people on the beach that are painted in a certain style, and how on earth do you paint those little people? distant. Ultramarine blue into this mix. Just trying to get a sharp little edge. Those white lines. I didn't even grab any Payne's Gray. I'm going to grab some Payne's Gray right now. I'll start going to town on the foreground. You could probably scrape to get the effects of the logs. Payne's Gray. Putting that fella in. The base of this guy just has so much growth around it, so much detail. There's little twigs coming off of it. So what I'll do is some wet and wet with the number 1. Just get some little twigs there. Then we'll move on to the next stage. I don't like how that bled out like that, so that's a little too thick, I think. So that might be one of the things that's causing me to have issues with that, the grandiose depth. Painting the trees, it bleeds out some, gets wider, and then from there I'm kind of chasing that and painting a bigger tree. So I think that's an issue. Payne's Gray and lemon yellow, and we'll give you a green. We'll get in the mass, then we'll do a dry off. All right, I think everything's laid out. I am reluctant to look at the time, but I will anyway, just looking for a scraping tool so I can scrape a little bit of these logs just to get that compositional spot there. And I think if we could either pick them out with a razor blade, if I could find one. Let's see. Open up that white area back here a little bit. All right, I'm gonna pause for a dry off. We are 24 minutes in. All right, so it's dry enough. A few things I obviously deviated from the tonal values of the original with this hill. I'm not sure if I'll play around in the background anymore, but I'm definitely going to build up this foreground and these trees. So I'm going to use that ultramarine lemon yellow mix, and the brush is still just obviously muddy. We're going to try to get that effect. Now with the hake brush and others, as you go in and you put the leaves in, you create wet areas, and it's very easy to get them to start blending together, and then from there just getting a mass shape of color as opposed to the leaf feel. So just be wary of that. This hake is old and I put it through a lot, so it has all these crazy parts to it. remember reading one book where the gentleman refers to one of his brushes as a scary brush. Let me grab some raw sienna. And his scary brush was kind of like an old brush that he had cut up and was able to create all these type of textures with. So if you don't have a hake, you know, there's a lot of different things you can utilize and different ways to play around. It's that background tree. Just kind of go with the flow a little bit. How the masters of this time period, I have no idea how they painted their trees, with what technique that they used. I think Eric Copley, a modern Hudson River Valley painter, would probably be the fellow with the answers. I'd seen part of a video where he was doing the clouds and starting to map things in. Trying to get the illusion of detail here. Hey, what you scratching at? Feel so bad. Me and Hammy have had kind of an off day together where every time he tries to get on my lap, it was just like a train wreck. Just claws in the thigh, or me moving my hand to go assist him and knocking my teaware all over. Hopefully Hammy doesn't remember any of that. I don't want him to think that I was mad or anything. As all the teaware clattered. Alright. I think I'll just continue this texture with this tree. I'll come in with the thinner brushes. Try to weave and there's people, I think, milling about in this picture too. There's just so much in these master paintings. Just dotting in. Oh, see, this is where I start making things bigger than they are, and that's what starts causing issues. So let's move away from there. I guess that's just an important thing to keep in mind when painting, just knowing what tendencies you have. Some of the modern watercolors have done some really cool trees with ivies on them, where they'd, I guess, wet it and drop in the pigment. I haven't tried that. I think I saw it in a Ranson book. I think I saw David Usher do a painting like that. Maybe Chris Varley did that. I think Lois Davidson did that as well. I think a lot of the painters out of England have attempted that kind of motif successfully. I haven't tried it. Let's grab some raw sienna. Background trees back here. So kind of where the trunks are being raised up in the picture plane helps that recede back. So the smaller size, but starting at a higher point, creates that recession. Also have the smaller trees here, which are very light. Use the side of the brush. Ultramarine, light red oxide. Some horizontal lines. There's a boat back in there. I haven't in a while, and I need to start doing it again, where I would do the master studies, the sketches in the pen and ink of the masters, and that definitely helped. Just that long, extended staring and drawing. We're less than a month out from summer vacation from work. As I've mentioned, a school teacher. I can spend a lot of time painting this summer. By the way, I have to order some paper, I think. So if you want to support this channel and help with supplies, I do have some links down below. You can support through Patreon and other means. And I do have paintings up for sale on Etsy. If there's anything up there that or anything that I do that I don't put up there, sometimes it's just kind of a hassle to put it up there, and Etsy is kind of hit or miss. But if there's something I do and I don't put it up there, just let me know, and I'll see if I still have it. See, it's these light washes that he was just... Obviously, these gentlemen were masters. Just doing a subtle wash in here. As you know, if you've watched the channel a lot, I'm a big fan of the dark and the moody, and I like everything on the darker side of things tonally. Let's kind of dry brush and let it skip along that effect. This hill back here is darker tonally. I'm not going to try to get the colors perfect. I'm just going to try to at least get that tonal value correct, or push it in the right direction. But yeah, the goal is a summer of painting, longboarding, and mowing the yard. I didn't mention mowing the yard yet in this video, so there you go. I'll probably do a farmer's market or two. I don't like painting between trees. That's just like a personal preference of mine that I just don't enjoy doing that. But I'm doing it here. This is the raw sienna. Okay. I don't paint mountains often. I had grown up in New York. In Long Island, we didn't have mountains, but you know, when I was Boy Scouts and all the other stuff, we would go into the mountains. But down here in Louisiana, especially so far south in Louisiana, we just don't have much hills. Just darkening this up. Just going to the edge. So let's now fiddle in the foreground. Just use our Payne's Gray for a darker aspect. Yeah, I don't know if you could hear it in the video, but a while back got a kind of waterfall for the cats to drink out of. And I've always wanted a little waterfall. And it's funny that that's where I wound up getting one. It's for the cats to drink out of. If you go into Hobby Lobby, Michael's, Walmart, Target, you know, they have all those kind of Zen waterfalls for relaxation. I always wanted one. I never got it. But this one is specifically for cats. We must be at the 40-minute mark. I'm gonna have to take a look. Payne's Gray. One of the issues that I have, and I'm hesitant to say certain things because I don't want you all to think that like it's a rule of thumb or anything like that. I just, for some reason, just really like dark values in paintings. If I look at the works of Turner, J.M.W. Turner, who I absolutely adore and love the paintings, some of the stuff that's, you know, very experimental, very impressionist, I have a hard time feeling that they're complete because of the lack of the range. But I know that there's a lot more to it, so don't tear into me for that. Okay, so let's use gouache. I'll reconstitute some, and that'll be for our little sheep. I'll do a dry off, and we'll see how it looks. We're exactly 40 minutes in. All these little sheep amongst trees. Oh, well, there's a cow there. Let me mix a bit of a brown in it. Here on this ridge we get a cow. He's higher up and he kind of comes out against the water, but I'm going to put him lower in the picture plane. We have somebody walking right here. I might have to do a dry off. All right, I'm going to pause real quick. All right, should be dried enough. This is to kind of just put little marks in with the gouache. How much that's going to help, I'm not sure. There's a figure sitting here. Next time I'm going to use fresh gouache and prepare a little bit more. Boat back here. I even have some black on here. Nope, that won't. Let's use Payne's Gray. Cows will be something I'll have to practice. And adding in, just kind of making marks and gestures. I think it's about time to wrap it up. I hope you enjoyed. Please like, subscribe, follow. I think this next month, painting-wise, will be experiments in this regard. You know, seeing what the watercolor masters did 200 years ago and attempting to learn from their approaches and seeing if I can carry it over to the fast and loose. All right, I hope you all enjoyed and have a great day. Take care.